Hey everyone, Jonathan Blackwood here, editorial director of Commercial Integrator. And today we are bringing a video interview with Randy Stern, CEO of D Tools. Randy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Jonathan, good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So, what I want to talk about today is something that we've been talking about really for a year now, but the conversation is beginning to shift in a cautiously optimistic way.
Mhm.
So, reopening the economy, it started to happen in some places. It's opening up a little more in other places, and a lot of states at this point do have some kind of timeline for when things are going to legitimately, start reopening. So I know that you kind of get to see how things are happening all across the country with D Tools. You get to talk to a lot of different integrators and find out what they're dealing with. So, what are you seeing and hearing when it relates to reopening and the economy?
Well, I mean, first of all, obviously President Biden is saying that all adult Americans will be able to get a vaccine by the end of May. We'll see if that happens or not. But I mean, that's a really positive sign. And the truth is, whether it's May or June, I mean, it's going to be soon, and the economy is going to come roaring back. I mean, I feel like this is like a loaded spring, right, with so much pent up demand, and every industry is going to see an uptick. It's just gonna, and anyway, it's gonna be fun. Um, I think the bigger question here probably is what to expect beyond the reopening. A reopening is going to be over a period of 3-4 months, this summer, late spring and summer. But you talked. I'm kind of a junkie for reading economic reports and forecasts and that sort of thing. And partly because it's my job to do that as running a company, but it's just something I'm interested in. And economists are across the board projecting a secular bull market here for the next 10 plus years. Stock indexes are at near all-time highs. They were at all-time highs a couple of days ago. Um, Interestingly, more Americans are in equities than than ever before since they've been reporting on that. Which and when people buy stock or equities, it's always based on anticipated future growth. It's never based on historical results. It's always based on where they think that the stock's going to go from that point forward. So there's just this sign of confidence in the economy right now is just really high. And what I say is hold on tight. We got to ride a big wave here, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be frothy, and prepare to launch.
Yeah, well, you've got a really unique perspective in that, I know that you follow all of these economic reports. You're the CEO of D Tools, so you get to see what's happening with a lot of these integrators, and you've got a background in integration yourself. So, with all of that, what are you recommending to our readers and to your customers to get ready for what's coming?
I would respond to that in a couple of different ways. One is what's coming is a significant growth cycle for most any company that chooses to go there. And I would say even with controlled growth, which I tend to think of in the 15 to 20% per year range is controlled growth. I think once you get to 30 to 40%, it gets pretty unmanageable, or certainly can. But if at the 15 to 20% a year, I mean, you're doubling in size over the next 4 to 5 years. And then I think with the projections from the economists, you're going to double again before the end of the decade. So, by the end of the 2020s, you're 4 times the size you are now if you're an integration business, even with controlled growth. So, the question becomes, okay, what's needed to support that kind of growth? And I would say there's kind of four pillars that build up the foundation of what you need in order to start to grow. One is leadership, and I'll touch on each of these in a minute. Leadership, skilled labor, we know that's a problem industry wide, right? Processes, do you have the right processes and structure in place to support growth? And then tools, and I'll call software tools or productivity tools that are critical for streamlining workflows and standardizing best practices and aggregating and archiving data and that sort of thing all in one place. So in a lot of ways, software helps keep the teams aligned and hold a company together. So those are the four pillars that I think are required, and I can I can unpack those a little bit if you want me to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like, a lot of integrators are going to be helping their customers with digital transformation, but it sounds like you're also pushing for integrators to look into some digital transformation of their own.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as I think about those four things, I mean, with leadership, you either have it or you don't, right? But the interesting thing is that good executives are probably easier to find these days. I'm sorry, than good skilled labor. So if you think you're not the right leader and you got into this industry because you're really strong technically or you're a good sales guy, um, and you ended up running a company, then you can find a good leader and put your place, and hire them and put yourself in the role that's most valuable to the company. So that problem, you either have it or you don't. You can work around it. Um, People complain about skilled labor, there being a shortage of skilled labor, and I agree that there is. Um, and that it is a constraint to growth. But I will tell you that from my personal experience as a systems integrator in the San Francisco Bay Area, I was forced to take a different point of view when it comes to hiring. Labor was so expensive there that instead of adding people willy-nilly, I looked to ways to avoid that whenever I could. And so my approach was to really focus on improving process and tools. Is far less expensive, and you can, instead of having to hire a person, which is a big chunk of overhead all at once, you can do it little bits at a time. So kind of the concept of Japanese concept of kaizen for your readers that are that understand that concept of continual improvement. And so I think the more you can just refine your processes and make your tools that you use better, what you end up doing is enabling more throughput through your organization. It could be 15, 20, 30% more project work with the same team, which obviously dramatically improves profitability, but it also creates happier employees. They feel more in control. They feel more productive. Customers and contractors see and feel the difference. That might even allow you to raise prices. So I would recommend you work with what you have and refine the processes and tools that you have in place, or maybe bring new ones in if you need to, instead of just going out and adding people. Because I think what happens when you add people is if you have a somewhat inefficient process and less than ideal tools where you're having to enter data into a cadre of different software solutions, the same data over and over again, you add people, and what you end up is just a larger organization with the same inefficiencies, right? And it's no more profitable. So anyway, just a different approach. And kind of the bottom line there is, of course, always keep an eye out for good quality people, but prioritize refining your workflow and deploying better software tools. That's what's going to lead to sustainable growth in the years to come.
Yeah, that kind of insight I think is really valuable for our audience, because I think that find the right people is pushed pretty often, but I don't know that find the right software and find the right platforms that are going to help you operate as a company is pushed as much. Are there any specific business process refinements or specific business tools or platforms that you would point our readers to?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm a supporter of D tools, but I don't want to. I want to be somewhat agnostic here and say that there's a lot of good software products out there, and you need to pick the one that's right for your organization. But what I would, in terms of process here, what I would suggest is you start with software, because to some extent, software will always drive process, right? Every product is written in a certain way and creates a certain structure that the teams will align around. So you start with software, and that'll give you a good one, which I classify D tools as would give you a primary system of record for all your project data, all in one place, right? All your people would work within that software. It is end to end. And it enables a lot of efficiencies in all kinds of different areas, from your sales process with CRM and lead tracking and forecasting to your system design and proposal generation and streamlining that process. Our customers tell us it reduces their proposal time in half. Reduce engineering time, really focus on fine tuning their documentation and getting that dialed in. And then of course, project planning and execution and service management. So you get the software in place. And then once you have that, then I think you start to fine tune your workflow and get that dialed in so that you're not ever having to do double data entry, and that the goal is, listen, here's the goal. The goal is that first you want to standardize your process. That's step one. Then you want to look to automate it to the extent possible. Once you have a standardized, okay, how can we do these things automatically instead of manually? And then ideally you look to eliminate certain steps that are just unnecessary and become superfluous. But at the end of the day, coming out of this pandemic allows our industry, and frankly most all industries, to hit the reset button in terms of kind of restructuring, realigning, reinitiating certain parts of your business. And whether that's everything from a cultural shift to some technology, as you mentioned, some more digital approach, even pricing. I mean, take a look at your pricing and see if you're priced properly. You might have reduced prices during the pandemic to support what was going on in the economy, and maybe a time to raise prices with the economy getting as frothy as it's going to be here soon. So look at that opportunity to hit the reset button and kind of start some things over where you need to.
Yeah, certainly a lot to think about for integrators, and I know that you're keeping agnostic, and there's plenty of different tools and platforms that integrators can potentially utilize for their business. But I also do know that D-Tools offers a lot of tools and platforms that are very specific to integration workflow. So if anyone in our audience wants to learn more about what D-Tools can provide, how can they reach out to you? How can they best find out?
I think our website's always the best place to start. And people these days mostly research online before they start any process anyway. So d-tools.com, and then just give us a call. I mean, we've got people that's what they do for a living, is walk you through the process. They'll ask you questions and understand what your business challenges are, and determine if we can help or not. And they're I think they're pretty objective about that. If we're not the right solution, we'll tell you. But we'd love to talk to any of your readers that may be interested. And it's an exciting time. I just hope everybody's prepared to take advantage of it.
Yeah, fully agreed. And I encourage everyone to, check out the D-Tools website, give them a call, learn more about what they can provide, because they're doing some really cool stuff that fits into the integration market. Randy Stearns, CEO of D-Tools, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks for having me.